So thank you guys for listening and thank you for having me. I'm now going to turn it over to Keith Kaplan from Tesla Foundation, who's going to help to share some information and then help to moderate some questions you may have.
Thank you, Josh. First and foremost, I want to thank SoCal for putting this all together, Dion and her team. Secondly, I'd like to thank Richard and the Community College District of California, actually, that we're doing work with that's really made a big turn. I'd also like to thank the Workforce Development Board. We have some people here, and when we were talking about girls and underserved that are on the front line, I'd like to acknowledge Job Corps is in the room. We actually have a workforce development project with 80 person cohort where we're training folks that are at Job Corps. If you're not familiar with Job Corps, you saw that little list on the bottom where it said at-risk youth. Well, they're probably the foremost people on the front lines taking these incredible young minds that just aren't given opportunity. I think the thing that we got most that I thought was wonderful, also I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting us and the wonderful folks that are here, also all of you that are online. I'll give you a quick snap of what the Tesla Foundation is about. We're about partnerships. We're about being able to democratize opportunity. And the reason why, you're looking at these little robots in front of us. And yes, I call them robots. My background is computer science and creativity. So we need all the minds. And that has been a very interesting thing. I think USC and SoCal has been leading the charge with connecting manufacturers with everyone. So let's have a little bit of history on why we're all here. And I think it comes down to a transition that happened when we went from the first to the second stage of the Industrial Revolution. We had a transition, and that transition was farm to factory. So what happened in that transition? How do you explain to a worker, you don't have to grow your food anymore, it's going to be brought to you, and you might even be working in a factory where you're going to have that food put into a basket, and there's going to be a truck. Oh, what's that? Oh, there's no horse involved, there's a truck. You were talking about elevators. I'd actually like to say we went from horse to car, right? So we had this giant global industry. And so the other thing about that too is, people say, oh, the car industry, right? Well, it's actually a technology company. And look at the incredible amount of people, IP, jobs that were created around that. Now, that same tech industry, then we had something else that happened that was incredible. Aerospace. All of a sudden, now think about this, 125 years, right? We just had 2 drones leave the solar system. They're still bringing data back, right? Well, we have aircraft that, pretty much everybody here has flown commercial, right? In the past month, probably. Well, the pilots are there just to make sure that the drone doesn't mess up. So they even have a little joke going around with pilots right now, and they say, we're going to start bringing dogs into the cockpit to bite us in case we fall asleep. But the other thing that's remarkable about that is that this technology, back in 2013, the Department of Transportation said to the FAA, let's integrate UAVs or aerial robotics into the NAS or remotely pilot or whatever you want to call it. Really, what happened was that this technology, and we had talked about the aerospace being the secret industry of California. Believe it or not, this region has been responsible for aerial robotics for over 45 years. And now we're seeing that transition where it's starting to integrate into the commercial aspect and personal aspect of everyone's life. The other thing that's amazing about that is that that same technology has also found its way into everyday life. And so let's use this as an example. You were talking about the phone, right? So this device is the fastest accepted piece of technology in the history of humankind, period. 10 years, right? iPhone 10, I know I want one, but I just got the other one, so I'll wait. Besides, they always have bugs for about 6 months on the operating systems, and that's from a computer scientist, so go ahead, buy it, but you're gonna have problems. So let's talk about why these devices are so important. Let's talk about why this partnership is so important. Let's talk about the Department of Commerce creating this opportunity. Let's talk about the community colleges. Let's talk about the UCs. The idea that you're actually going to be creating a combination, and I call it combination, of young minds, companies, educators, research institutions to say, oh my God, we have to move as fast as the app update that just happened every week. They got to stop doing that. I can't keep up. It's driving me crazy. So the other thing that's really interesting about all of you that either are looking for jobs working in industry, thinking about how you create these types of industries. When you think about what a community college is, you might not think about this. You might have gone to one of the best schools in the world. But if you want to learn something new, all you got to do is look at a local community college near you, and you get to go. And if you're in high school and you want to start studying the physics of aerorobotics, you can start doing it at your community college. And you know what? Your community college will connect you to USC. And then you can be in one of those labs. So really, this opportunity, this discussion, and the reason why we're having this discussion in the first place is about connecting the opportunity to the source of creating that passion. So if you have a company, you're very passionate about your company. If you're a young person that's looking for a job, or even a person that's been displaced and you're looking for a job, you want to be passionate about what you're doing. Now, obviously, I was really excited to have Josh come because he's very passionate about what he does. And when you talk about the different type of technology that he's using now, to be honest with you, that technology is about 3 or 4 years old already. And that technology is not what's being developed. There was something that came up just last week you might not think is related to these types of opportunities, but they came up with what they call an atomic cryogenic microscope. The reason why that is important is I can take a flash photo at an atomic, subatomic level and atomic level of what's going on with that battery. So it's new, take a picture. Been using it for about 100 hours, take a picture. Oh, it just failed. Take a picture. Imagine what that's going to do to the iteration cycle of that technology in an environment like you described, right? You got the manufacturer, you got the user, you got the worker, they all have something that they're going to put into it, and now I got a picture of it. Wow. So we're going to start seeing how optics, hyperconnectivity, different power sources, both on capture, generation, and regeneration, and also the different types of things that we're going to see at the nano level and how that's all going to happen. Now, let's talk about why the Partnership for Southern California is so important. Partnership for Southern California is so important. Again, that little secret industry you were talking about. Oh, gee, who puts rockets on the, who puts rockets into space? Who builds all those components? Who has the largest science, national science designation in the entire nation? Southern California. The only area that has a larger science funding designation is the area in New Mexico. And we all know that New Mexico is where Los Alamos is, White Sands. So what they build here, they test there. Build here, test there. But the other thing that's been supporting that and built to support that is the education system in Southern California. It's one of the largest in the world. And as a matter of fact, it's also one of the most prestigious. Everybody wants to come to California, come to schools in California. It's a wonderful opportunity. So we're going to have a little bit of Q&A. And what I really want to focus on talking about is opportunities for employers and opportunities for workers. How do we connect those two things? And also opportunities for those two to share with the research institutions so that California can continue to innovate. So we're going to have a little bit of roundtable here. First question I'd like to pose is, Josh, how would you work with Richard to make sure that you have enough people for your growing company?
We already are. I mean, one of the advantages of being a teacher in the community college system is that almost every single person I have hired has been a student of mine. In fact, one of my students is in the room today, came up with me from Orange County. And so I get to be an industry partner for the community college system. I also get to be an educator in that system. And as a result, I have a huge workforce that is waiting to just come and work with companies like mine when the students are ready and once they have their proper licensing through the FAA.
Excellent. So you said proper licensing through the FAA.
I did that on purpose.
Oh, good. Okay, so please pontificate.
So we're really fortunate and lucky that right now there actually are laws in place. A lot of times we hear misinformation. Well, the laws keep changing. They're not really in place. Well, I'll tell you, since August 29th, 2016, that's over a year now, the laws have not changed at the federal level. I'm not going to share all of them with you right now unless you have specific questions, but the bottom line is that if you want to operate for commercial use, which is either monetary gain or any other type of commercial gain, you have to have what's called the Part 107 certificate. It's a pilot certificate. It's an actual, it looks like a driver's license from the FAA. I have one in my wallet right now. There are currently 55,000 people in America that have this license. So we keep hearing the statistic, oh, there's going to be 100,000 drone careers in America by 2020. I think there already are. There are not enough people in the workforce to cover the amount of jobs in the industry right now, by far. And I can't give you exact numbers because it's still too new. But I can tell you that once our students and more people keep getting these Part 107 licenses, there are career paths in a myriad of industries that they can get into. But the big stepping stone right now is the Part 107 drone license from the FAA.
So one of the things that's also exciting about what you're discussing, the FAA. So this comes from a larger initiative by the federal government. Now, when you understand aviation, and again, we're focusing on UAVs and aviation today because of the connection with aerospace and advanced manufacturing and education here in Southern California. But it's called the Part 107. The Part 107 has a limitation up to 55 pounds right now. Now, this drone, fully loaded with that payload, is probably about what? 7.5. Yeah, for that. And then that's what does that have the extended hard drive on it?
Doesn't need. That's got the extended camera on it.
Okay, that's got the
upgraded camera.
Okay, great. So again, what he's talking about is that has a payload. It's kind of heavy. Probably does about, what, 20 minutes now?
That's right, that one. Although there's an upgrade to that with 2 batteries.
But you get the 2 battery and you get about
30.
35, right? In temperature conditions that do well.
Right.
25 in cold weather.
Altitudes.
And
Denver,
altitude.
it's going to be 20% less.
Exactly. So you were talking aviation, and the reason why I started getting into those things a little bit is that aviation is really where we're being allowed to do a lot of innovation for robotics and for the type of data collection that we need. And as you had mentioned, it's a very fast-growing industry. Now, one of the things we also need to talk about, Deanna, and this is where I'm going to lead to you, what's going on with the policy issues around this, and how does that affect education and the manufacturers as well?
So there are policy issues around where can you operate the machines. There are policy issues around privacy. That's a big one, you know, and that's what a lot of people are concerned about is if this is going to be able to fly over my house and I'm out in my backyard, what are people going to see and how do I protect myself? So those are the 2 biggest issues that I am aware of at this point.
Well,
how do we solve them?
That's interesting because just recently the city of LA, which had some policies in place when they didn't understand what was going on with UAVs and the fear, just passed some information to allow now public safety to really participate. So what does that mean? Now, we were talking about some of the technology that you had described. Okay, well, let's take a snapshot of that and let's go back to the education or the young person that needs to work at your company. And I really personally like the earn and learn policy of what's going on. One of the most important things that Richard talked about was the ETP, or we call that the employment training panel, right? Well, there's something else that goes along with that. It's called the employment training panel list. Well, what happens with that list is that, well, let me give you an example. I spoke at Job Corps to talk to these young people that most people would think, oh, they're foster youth, or they were previously incarcerated, or they're orphans. And I'm speaking to about 400 of these young people. I think it was a young, skinny gentleman was the last person to ask a question. And he was a tall young man. You could tell that he was probably new. He hadn't had his new shirt on, and he was just barely there. And he said to me, Mr. Kaplan, what is the foundation doing focusing on the work that Dr. Tesla had done to bring free energy to the citizens of the United States? Now, listening to that young man, I knew I was in the right place. Again, we need all the minds, right? We need all the minds. Who doesn't want that person in their company in an earn-to-learn environment? You know, these are the types of young people that, given a chance, end up being the next PhDs that solve a world problem. But they just need opportunity. We hear over and over again from industry, and this will go to you, Richard. Oh, I can't find people, right? Well, I think what we're talking about is trying to help them find people, right? So you've created this partnership. What are some of the initiatives that other than what we're talking about now, some of the initiatives you talk about, specialized programs, specifically in aerospace that you're working on right now?
Well, the challenge that industry, that comes from industry and that education and policymakers continue to hear about, we can't find talent, is really what's driving community colleges and higher education around focusing on ensuring that we are preparing that skilled workforce in partnership with industry. But it's, I mean, this is moving at such a pace for us to keep up with is a challenge. both with curriculum and with the infrastructure and the equipment, not only the knowledge in the classroom. And so it's critical that community colleges and higher education are strengthening the partnership with education, but bringing business into the classroom. Because in our economy, there are a lot of competing interests. Do we invest to invest the limited resources? And so is it in the design? Is it in the manufacturing? Is it in the operation? Is it in the maintenance? It is the data gathering and analysis? I mean, what are we preparing them for? Are all of those jobs connected? Are they distinct? And so really understanding where we need to invest and where the opportunities are critical. For example, the City of Los Angeles Workforce Development Board went through a very deliberate but also challenging process to get to launch an initiative at East Los Angeles College, our first UAV program. But there were more doubts, thanks to Tesla, but there were more doubts and really questions about, are there really jobs? Are they really good jobs? Are they really accessible to the population? Do we have a faculty member and the capacity to train? And Josh, really, are there companies like yours who are going to hire? Or is this so far away, or is this such a small field? Mm-hmm. And then again, where do we focus? Manufacturing, design, maintenance, all of these things. And so those are really tough decisions to make, and they have to be made and they should not be made in isolation. You do not want only educators making these decisions. You don't only want policymakers making these decisions. And so the importance of having these conversations and understanding where we make these investments and the sequence of these investments is critical. We want it to be data-driven. We want it to be informed by research. But oftentimes, again, we have a lot of competing interests. And so working with the companies so our best initiatives are the customized programs we have with Northrop Grumman, with Antelope Valley College, with this new Aeroflex program in West LA College, with industry directly, where education is being tailored. We have a workforce that's interested. We have young people who have enormous talent, but they need to be, we really need to guide them with the knowledge of where this is going, because Uber and Lyft will not be here in 10 years.
That's true, right? And there'll probably be drones that are in those Uber and Lyfts as well, or at least assisted, right? We have to have a little dog that bites the driver that fell asleep.
Yes, and we're no longer allowed we're no longer the system where students will come to find themselves and spend 3 or 4, 5, 7 years to find themselves. This is where we're now expected to direct them into careers, into the occupations of the 21st century. And so having instructors, having faculty like Josh, and hopefully many of you consider the opportunities to be faculty, are not about only preparing the workforce, but Josh has proven he has exclusive access, early access to talent.
So that's a big thing.
And that's a competitive edge for employers.
That's a really big thing. So what we're seeing, and we have some programs at the foundation that go down into the high school and middle school, and we're seeing that at that early age that those programs are being incredibly effective, because now you got these teams of folks. One's a pilot, one is doing data collection, one's doing a little bit of maintenance or repair. But the thing that's important at that level too that I think we want to address here, and this goes over to the research side. Why wouldn't there be a wonderful, 11th grader that is brilliant at something that would be now at the research level working with those other folks? And so this is the kind of connectivity that we have to start to create. And you know what? There's a lot of those brilliant 11th graders out there that are going to think differently. I'm not going to go with Steve Jobs, I'm going to use the right term, about connecting their talent to just doing. And a lot of what's happened in education that we see that folks are excited about in Southern California, which I think is just wonderful, because remember, in 1903 they had the first flight, but by 1906 the very first aircraft congress was out on Playa Vista, right over the Spruce Goose Hangar, where we have really the DNA of 3 people for California. And I'll say California because HP in Silicon Valley really came from a lot of the government contracts to need semiconductors, and it blossomed as a technology center for the world. Now, what really pushed it over the edge, if you think about it, is that direct misdirect comment by Mr. Kennedy. We're going to beat everybody to the moon. Well, that put hyper speed and capital into that process. I don't know if many of you realize this or not, but the very first space science lab was actually at Berkeley. Berkeley was actually the very first institution of higher learning in California, one of the first in the world, 150 years old. So, you know, you see now the 2 top colleges. I think the U.S. report came out recently. We had Stanford #1, USC right up there. And I'm not trying to make competition, but you had mentioned that. And the reason why I'm talking about it this way is that competition is not an unhealthy thing. But we're in a different world. We have to think about include and prosper. And this type of a collaboration is about include and prosper. So Dion, you've been working now for 20 years in this at the highest levels of education and government. What do you see as some of the challenges around the combination of the workforce, and not only that, but the higher level to the lower level, being able to hear this message and know that there's something like an ETP where they can get the training for their new workers and that it's paid for?
There is a challenge when you're talking about manufacturers, because they're so busy working that they can't put their head up to hear about things. So you have to find what is their trusted source and work with them to get the information through their trusted source to them. And we've been working, doing that through AMP SoCal. But something else from what you were talking about that I just want to point out, young people today have they're growing up with different technologies. So, and how they think about them and how they're interested in using them is very different. When we said we were going to go to the moon, that inspired a lot of young people to want to be an astronaut or to want to help with that process. We've got young people today who want to help us get to Mars. We also have young people who are watching this, those same commercials that you saw, they're seeing that and they want to be part of this. So there's an opportunity, because they're seeing this, letting them know that they can be a part of it, and they think differently. So I've got a nephew. He was talking about privacy is very different for him. Mm-hmm. He has an iPhone, and he knows that Google is collecting information all the time. When he's using his camera, there's information that is on the phone that goes back to whoever's app you're using, and they're getting metadata about, well, what are the products that you're using? What is that in the background of the picture? You know, what are the products? I mean, the massive amount of data that's being collected, and he doesn't have a problem with it. Now, I come from an earlier generation. I'm kind of like, I don't know about this. But for him, it's like, this is how we're going to grow our economy. This is how we're going to get the information we need. So his whole perspective is different. I think these young people have a different perspective, and we need to listen to them and inspire them to apply it to the solutions that we need in the future.
Yeah, very well said. Oh, yeah.
If I may jump in, then there's an online question, I bet. Yes? Okay. I want to just briefly respond to both of those very quickly. To respond to which one do we teach and which one do we educate, I think that one of the big successes of the strong workforce dollars that have come down from the state is the regional sharing. I want to share an example, not of how that specifically was used, but the way it could be used. Coast Community College District in Orange County has 3 schools. One of them, Orange Coast College, has an aviation program. Coastline Community College has a great digital graphic arts program. And Golden West College has a great public safety search and rescue program. One of the things I'm trying to potentially orchestrate as a model, if not there, elsewhere, is that maybe Orange Coast College can host all the Part 107 classes, and students can get the private pilot's tests out of the way and the Part 107. Same students can then possibly come to Coastline Community College and take the drone videography and photography course. and then do a joint certificate, because certificates are part of the strong workforce dollars rubric that you need to show certificates, okay? Then if we have the public safety search and rescue students that are going to be doing fire rescue and police work at Golden West College, send them to Orange Coast as well to get the Part 107 and have a shared certificate there. So my response is we teach all of them. We find the schools that are, and this is the same for UC and Cal State, find the schools that have a strong program already in place where we can fit drones into it, and then have them communicate with the other local programs right now to get more people involved. And this will also help with numbers, because not all 3 of those schools are going to fill all 3 of those classes every single semester forever. Okay, so there's the response to that. The other big challenge with manufacturing we're having right now is that almost all the drones in America are being manufactured in China. And this company that makes these 2 drones, DJI, is the largest company in the industry by far. I've heard anywhere from 70 to 80% of the drones in the sky are DJI drones. Okay, frankly, in many cases, they are the best. In every case, they're the best at that price point. They've been in it longer than anybody else. They're valued at $10 billion. They're going to be around for a really long time. That said, we have companies in America. There's one in Huntington Beach, California called K2 Unmanned. Kent is here with them today, that are manufacturing American-made drones. One policy issue we're having is that these drones, just like our cell phones, are designed to upload all of our data to a cloud. Every photo I've taken, every video I've taken gets uploaded to a cloud. Where's that cloud?
It's all over the world.
But specifically for this company, where is that cloud?
It's
in China. Now, we can turn that off. Most people don't know that. As a result, our government, the American government, has recently put out a memo to military, you're not allowed to use DJI drones. Now, I'm not knocking DJI. You can see these are the drones that I'm using of choice for my business. But this is opening up a huge, huge opportunity for American-made manufacturers to get into this industry, to get into this field, to be the competition. Because our military, national parks, and large institutions that want to have drones that are not Chinese-made in Chinese companies, there's a huge opening, right open right now. So I just want to share some of that with you from the manufacturing side. We have an online question, and if I'm not stealing the moderation, but there's a question there and a question here. Are we time for that?
Hey, you're a teacher. You're doing a good job teaching.
So the online question comes from David Frankel. With Southern California having the most crowded airspace in the U.S., is there concern about how to grow the UAS industry in a safe way?
I can answer that. So the reason why I'm a little qualified to answer that, and I just want to say it because we have a lot of really smart people here that are in this industry. I was fortunate enough to be involved with some of the initial conversations with the FAA going all the way back to 2014. So the Part 107 specifically, and again, would you read that again just one more time?
With SoCal having the most crowded airspace in the U.S., is there concern about how to grow the UAS industry in a safe way?
So one of the things that's happening right now is NASA Ames is working on a program that is about traffic management for the airspace from 0 to 400 feet. Now, when that program becomes mature, every single drone will have a transponder. And when that transponding happens, just like we have with planes, it'll squawk, and we'll know where all of those things are. But the other thing that happens with planes is that you have autopilot, or you have different areas that you can't go in. And so that's GPS gating. And so the GPS gating is part of that. That will happen as well. Now, Southern California is the most crowded airspace, if not one of the most in the world, actually. And actually, LAX was just recently named the top destination airport in the globe. If you've ever sat in front of LAX, you see they have that 5-minute lag. You just, all day long, 24 hours a day, there's a stream. Now, when you start learning about the aviation part, and obviously this person knows that question, probably an aviator, technology is going to mitigate a lot of those issues. But what's carried in Part 107 right now is that at minimum, if you're going to do it professionally, you have to have flight school training. So that training, and this is where I'm going to tap you again because you're doing this and you're a 107 certificate holder. What is it that you guys talk about when you're talking about flight training?
Well, the flight training, most of it, frankly, doesn't have anything to do with UAVs. I'll have to point that out, okay? It's very much a test designed for pilots to learn what other pilots have to know in order to be in the airspace, because we are sharing that airspace. So I had to learn METARS, which is a weather system. It's a weather code, basically. Do you know how I know if it's an okay day for me to fly? There's 3 things I use: my eyes, my ears, and my hands. I walk outside and I look around and I put my hand out. Okay, it's not raining. The clouds are high enough today. We can fly. I'm not using METARs. But I have to learn what a METAR is and how to read it, because we are sharing the space with aircraft. The most important thing, though, is sectional charts. So we have to know what airspace are we in. Are we in Class G? Not A. A is 18,000 and higher. We're not in A. Are we in G? Are we in B, C, D, airspace, or E? And that is extremely important because of the aircraft that are in the sky already. Right. I will also point out one more thing, that the 107 pilots generally aren't the issue. It's the hobbyists. Because right now, anybody can buy one of these drones and fly it. Okay? I will also say, though, hitting an aircraft, commercial aircraft, is not going to bring that aircraft down. Okay? These are smaller than turkeys. It's going to scratch it.
They weigh less,
it might
too.
Dent it. There has finally, I say finally, I don't mean finally. There has now been an actual case on record of a drone that hit a helicopter in flight. Okay, it was a military helicopter. They were flying way lower than they were supposed to, but they're the military, so I guess they can. It's an interesting story. But it scratched the paint, basically, on that helicopter. Okay. That said, there are larger drones. There are larger drones that are going to be getting into that space. Before those over 55-pound drones are approved, though, this system is going to be rolled out.
Well, yeah, that's right, but that's a good point. So there is a program, actually, and you were talking about how is this all going to work, especially in crowded airspace. There's a program right now called the Pathfinder program. Now, the Pathfinder program gives companies the ability that are on the software side, like AeroWare, or on the news gathering side, like CNN, or on the railroad side, like BSNF, where they're using larger drones in cohort with software, with the air traffic control management system. As a matter of fact, BSNF, the railroad company, is working with a very large drone that weighs about 120 pounds that they use, that's a fixed wing, that follows along the tracks. And it is able to use very advanced optics to be able to see whether those railroad tracks need servicing or not. Now, it took thousands of hours of men going and looking at the tracks with the smaller things. Remember those little ones you saw back in the movie, right? Those were actually so the guys could inspect the tracks. Then you saw the smaller trucks that would drive with the wheels on it. Now they're using the drone. And so much like what your company was doing, being able to inspect. Now, how do we teach young people? Where's the ETP come in so you can tell these folks right now that they can train these young people?
Well, the ETP is largely a resource for employers to support their workforce or to attract a workforce. I think the real resources are going to be in how we introduce new curriculum and how we upgrade our facilities and have the infrastructure to support this evolving ecosystem. And that we have the faculty and we have the capacity to the professionals to teach that have really are part of this movement, as part of this new, I'm not sure I'm calling it's an industry yet. They're also,
let's call it next gen aerospace, right? Next gen aerospace?
Okay, so aerospace. And then understanding, that what piece of the market can community colleges, for example, exclusively own? That are there careers, and are there careers with good trajectory that only a degree or a certificate from a community college could support, versus that they could begin this trajectory at the community college, continue at a 4-year that then goes in many different directions, including research ultimately, for those who want to pursue that route. But we're looking increasingly at industries where a community college can deliver a workforce without additional education and degrees. Well, we want to promote lifelong learning, and we want to promote the opportunities to continue at a 4-year. We need to better understand where these opportunities can begin and end, and also continue. And so we really want to redefine community colleges and really be clear about what are the opportunities that we're preparing them for, which one of these opportunities require them to go on, but that they can begin at a community college or they can begin at a 4-year for many of these opportunities.
Excellent. So I want to open up some questions in the room. Okay, yes, sir.
The question is, what is the process basically of how to get curriculum created so that we are creating curriculum and the right curriculum so that we actually have the courses happening, okay? I will speak specifically to Coastline Community College because that's my experience, but I think it's a very similar process. It's a long process. First, you have to have 5 things. I've been preaching this for the longest time. You need a president, you need a dean, you need a department chair, you need a teacher, and you need students. If you don't have all 5 of them, your program will not succeed. And the ones that have not have had a missing link, and the ones that have all 5, okay? Once those conversations have taken place, either the teacher is creating the curriculum, or there's an organization like Tesla Foundation that has curriculum that they're selling currently to schools. Then that goes to, for the college, a local curriculum board. Okay, there is a website specifically for the community college called CurricuNet. We fill out everything to a very, very, very specific format. Once that's done, then the college has a board that will say, yes, this is something we'd like to pursue. No, it's not. Now, I will tell you, if you have all 5 of those things in place, it would be silly for the board not to. It would be very odd, okay? Once the school has approved it, and then Richard can correct me if I'm wrong here, then it goes to the regional consortium, and then there is another committee there that looks at it and approves it. And then I believe for new emerging programs that have never existed before, does the state also have to approve at that point? Then it goes to the state level, okay? I am very proud to say that this process, which up until now was taking up to 18 months to 2 years, is becoming a lot more streamlined thanks to the regional consortiums who are saying, look, you know, this really shouldn't be this difficult. We can get this happening. And we're starting to see curriculum within 2 to 3 months of it being asked at the college level, approved by the state, and enacted.
Can I, let me just, if I could just add to that. So the engagement of industry in this process is also what you're asking. How do you do it? And so there's existing curriculum, and each program is required to have an industry advisory council that meets at least once a year to review curriculum. That varies from college to college in terms of size and quality and input. So we need to strengthen that process. 2 is introducing new curriculum to either replace or where there isn't curriculum is the best opportunity. And finding qualified faculty or becoming the qualified faculty to teach, I think is one of those alternatives. Understanding that we increase the engagement with employers to critique our current courses and offerings, but engaging the faculty in supporting professional development by opening doors, by shadowing, by having them engage with CEOs and with leaders of industry to know where the trends are, some of which may be proprietary, others may just be generic, are really important because the faculties are the ones who are shaping the talent, right? And providing the specific training and development of skills. And so we want to improve or increase the contact between faculty and employers where it's not disruptive of employers, but where there's a strong interest on behalf of employers to allow faculty to see what's going on in companies and to understand trends and to share some of that intel so that it could be imparted in the classroom. But we want to reduce the number of industry advisory councils, I do anyway, that there aren't 28 across 28 colleges. How many of you can attend 28 industry councils? None of you, right? So if we had one that's regional, then we can begin to utilize your time better, but also to ensure that you are informing the curriculum and you're critiquing it and we're being responsive to it. So we're going to increase those opportunities.
And if I can just make a quick piggyback, you have 3 champions right here. So by contacting these 3 individuals in order to get access to where's the right place for me to plug in, that's what you want to do. Because if you went to a community college who's not been engaged in any of this conversation, you may or may not find the right person, you may or may not get the reception you're looking for, and I don't want any of you to get discouraged. So utilize these 3 gentlemen here.
And we don't want colleges competing for you. We want you competing for the colleges. And so oftentimes an employer is like bigger than a diamond. And then we try to hold on to you and we try to make you exclusive. Don't let that happen, because then you lose the opportunity to access our entire education system when there is just an exclusive relationship. And so we want to improve collaboration. We want you to have access to the talent in the entire system, not just at one school or in one classroom or in one program. And so we really want to ensure that our employer relationships are informing the entire system, not just one program. As valuable as that is, there's greater value in taking a systems approach, and that's why we collaborate so much today.
That's true. The young lady in the back. So she asked a question on how can businesses or people interact with their policymakers, specifically a congressman. How does that policy connection also connect to a congressman at the community college level, looking for money or other resources or NGOs or things like that, or other institutions? And then the last one, how are we engaging parents? So I'll start, and then we can answer this a little bit. On the policy side, let's just be realistic, okay? Let's look at impact and let's look at feasibility, right? Well, okay, something might have a high impact. Oh, well, it's going to have to get passed through policy. Well, feasibility starts to go down. Why? It goes into what Dion was talking about. So this device in my pocket is probably the most, also, not only is the fastest accepted device like we talked about, it's the most intrusive device that human beings have ever, adopted and created. You probably looked at this before you put your underwear on this morning. I'm sorry, I know I did. But the policy side and reaching out to policy has to happen. There has to be pressure. There has to be engagement. Employers have to ask why. And that goes back to the question that was online. It's not about the airspace and how the busy airspace is going to create movement. It's policy. How much money is going to the entire system? That's one of the things that's very important to democratize opportunity. So your question really, your three questions really focus on that. Yes, you should be so flooded with letters about being able to push technology and push policy for investment in young people and for, well, let's look at it like this. If you want to have a curriculum for a specific young person to have a job in an area, look at the clusters that are around a community college. Look at the employer that's around a community college. And then connect that employer to the community college to a trainer. And you know what? He's got a boatload of money that he can give you. And it's non-credit, but it equals a job right away. And see, that's a fast path. That could take 6 weeks. I mean, it really depends on, well, how what, two months? 90 days? How fast? How fast ETP? How fast can it happen?
Well, we're talking government. We're talking education.
Right.
So very little happens in 6 weeks. Let's be honest.
Right.
But what can happen in 6 weeks is changing the mindset of an institution and the decision makers by circling the wagons, so to speak. There are many competing interests, and change within institutions is hard. But when industry and electeds, and Congressman Cardenas is unique with his engineering background and his business background, but convening these decision makers so that educators could see the trends, could see the return on investment, could see the partnerships is critical to changing institutions and the investments and the priorities institutions are making. And then again emphasizing that no one gets left behind, and that we have partners that have proven that the young people who many say have no future in these in this space are delivering, are proving their value, and with a very small investment and with great support, we can turn young people around, and we can put them on the path to great careers. But the congressman has the ability to leverage his position pull employers together, pull other policymakers, leaders, thought leaders, so that educators have access to the vision and to the potential. And not just potential. I mean, as Josh has proven, this is real. This is not just speculative.
It's not just me.
And when we tried to, when the city WIB pushed to a small investment in a pilot at one college, most of the decision makers and educators were very doubtful that this was a worthy investment. And I mean, I guess we should have had Josh in the room, and we should have shown some of these videos, but I think I'm looking at the piece of equipment in the abstract, I think understates how many industries are embracing it and where the growth is. But the congressman has the ability to pull these folks together to change the minds of educators, and that's important.
I know we're running out of time, but I have 3 very specific solutions. 1, fund opportunities for students, teachers, and parents to go to trade shows. Okay? I go to trade shows all the time. The only people there are suits. Get the kids, get the students, get the parents at these trade shows, either for the drone industry, for manufacturing industry, any of them, okay? 2, get funding to get LinkedIn learning into every classroom. LinkedIn, for all of us in the room right here, we think of it, oh, it's my resume, okay? Well, let's say a student wants to become a CEO of a company. Go on to other people's LinkedIns and look at those CEOs and look how they got to where they are. If a student wants to be a drone operator, find out who's a drone operator and how did they get to where they are. What was their path, the pathway that they took. LinkedIn provides all of that. And then video tutorials on how to learn how to do all of it, okay? So contact LinkedIn Learning, second one. And then the third one is make promotional videos. Make video content. And who should be making it, by the way? The high school video production teams. Get the high school studio funding for the high school teams to contact 3 people like me and say, we want to make a video about the drone industry. Can you come in and talk to us and be interviewed? Interview me, interview an agriculture person, interview a construction person, and then make a video out of it that you can show to the parents, that you can show to the administration, that you can show to the whole state that these are people in the industry doing these jobs and here's how it's happening. 4th thing, really quickly then. Give money to AMP SoCal, give money to Tesla Foundation to make these videos. So if the high schools aren't going to be the ones doing it because they have an amateur team, marketing, marketing, marketing. It's the one thing that's not happening, and I will say it's not happening at the community college level nearly enough. There's a huge marketing grant that just came through the LAOC-RC. How much is this marketing grant? You allowed to say?
Well, yes. I mean, $1 million. We committed $1 million. Orange County committed $2 million. So that was just in the first year.
And why is this coming to them? If they were doing enough marketing, they wouldn't need the money to do marketing. They're not doing enough marketing. The money's there now to do that. So I would tell the congressman, provide grant money to AMP SoCal, to Tesla Foundation, to USC Price, to make these videos, to make this happen so that students can see it, so that these things are in their classroom, not just here on a screen.
We had another online question that was similar in nature to that. Is asking, is there an appetite at the state level to provide real funding to move the needle with innovative pilot programs?
Well, that would be a good place for you to start. Yeah.
So I think the state did a huge thing when it created the Strong Workforce Program. And that was to try to bring people together, particularly industry partnering with the community colleges to develop these programs and then demonstrate the value here, and so then it can be replicated across other ones. But industry has to come to the community college and say, we need this now, work with us, we're here, and then you can do it. There's a 3rd round coming up in January, when the community colleges and industry can partner. So there's an opportunity right now to form a team and talk to probably these folks here about where are the community colleges in my region and or already started this process that we can now partner with and actually create these pilots.
And they're going to be upset I bring it up, but contact the CTE deans. The CTE deans are the ones that have their pulse and the finger on what the needs of that program in that school are. The teachers are the ones coming to them saying this is what we'd like to spend the money on. The teachers are, but ultimately the deans are the ones saying this is what's best for our program. So contact them. And there has been millions of dollars from Strong Workforce specifically to drone industry in the first year at least, for sure.
So I know we got to close, but I want to make sure and you pointed out something very good. And I want everybody to make a commitment online and in this room. We have to put pressure on elected officials because current think tank data that we have shows that most people think that it's the responsibility of government and education to fill the skills gap. So that means that we need to put pressure on our elected officials at every level so that they understand that the skills gap is really a funny word for lifelong learner. That's really what it is, right? We have to have an investment in our entire education and workforce from a policy level to be committed to create opportunity for everyone. These drones represent now and the future, but what we focus on as a team, and it's our focus, and I don't want to just say Tesla Foundation because every one of you are committed to this being here. As we make this transition from an IT age to the autonomous age, and this is moving to the fourth stage of the Industrial Revolution, advanced manufacturing and the opportunity of advanced manufacturing for Southern California is something that we already have a base for as an industry. Put pressure on the elected officials to be able to make sure that they put money and resources into making this the strongest region for tech, keeping it the strongest region for tech. When people think about investment globally, we just talked about this. All the technology came from Southern California, but where are they building it? China. Advanced manufacturing is going to change that. You order something, and it's going to be sourced and built by automation closer to where it's purchased. They're already designing these programs. It's already happening in manufacturing. There's plans. So please, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I mean, I can't be more excited to introduce Libby, who's really worked hard to put this all together. So let's give Libby a big hand.
Thank you. Before I thank our wonderful panelists again, I want to remind everybody in the room and also online of a couple of things that are in your folders. And those of you online, you've got it in your PDF. The flyer about the IUCRC, again, the Industry University Research Collaborative. We really want to focus what our universities are doing here on the UAV and drone industry. The only way we can do that is with the help of the industry and with our partners. So please take a look at that. Also, for those of you who are actually manufacturers who are in the room and online, we'd love for you to fill out our really simple survey of what is it that you want us to focus on? What are the areas of research that the universities need to apply in order to help you move and grow this industry here in Southern California? Lastly, I want to remind everyone that you are invited at a discount rate to our event that's coming up this coming Tuesday on November 14th on the campus of USC. It's our biannual meeting. We have got some great sponsors who have come in at the last couple of weeks, so we're now able to offer to those of you who are in attendance online in the room, a discount of $50 for the event. And again, you'll hear more wonderful presenters and speakers, all coming from business and industry, just like Josh Friedman. And that's what we want to make sure we get out to you so you hear directly from them what their needs are, where we're going, and how we can all be supportive of the industry. With that, I want to thank the LA Chamber for hosting us, and I want to thank our wonderful panel, Keith Kaplan from Tesla Foundation, for also hosting us and being our co-host and helping to put out this word to his expansive contact base. Without him, boy, I mean, within one day of him putting it out, we had about 60 people RSVP, and I was like overwhelmed, but I'm happy that he did, and he was with us to help support us. Josh Friedman, giving us your insight from your company and what's going on, and the fact that you are intimately involved already with the community colleges and helping provide that information on what the need is. That is what we need, more companies like you to take on that role. And we know it's difficult because you got a company to run, but we really appreciate you. We do. Richard Burgess, thank you so much for representing the community colleges. Want to make sure everybody online remembers and understands that it's not just here in LA and Orange County, but all throughout the 10 county Southern California areas, there is a wealth of information and resource with the different programs focused on career technical education that you can access through the community colleges. And also my own colleague and wonderful Dion Jackson with the USC Center for Economic Development and the director of our SoCal program. We really work hard to try to bring together the partners and meet your needs. Please join us. Join us online, get our monthly newsletter, and hopefully we'll see you at future events. Thank you so much. Have a great day.